I think the last video I made, I'm just looking at it here on my channel, it's called Zentronics. Where is the Zen in electronics? And so on. And, well, that was 8 months ago. And my channel, formerly called Keep an Open Mind, I've just renamed it to Intentional Accidents, as it's more reflective of where my philosophical and experimental nature kind of intersect. And also, through this like year of 2020 and early 2021, is a lot of people spend a lot of time vlogging, maybe some that never did before or hardly did, and yet somehow I stopped vlogging. I was vlogging before tons. For me, you know, like 2 times a month sometimes, or even have peak periods where I did one every day. And there's even, I can see that a year ago, COVID Blues Day, I did like about 6 in a row, where I just played with my guitar. But today I was going to kind of make a video that I want to share with my family and friends and anyone who's still a subscriber on this channel. Hello to you all. And I'm going to make my page. I already announced already in the past I was going to change to a different kind of subject matter mostly, and leave behind this kind of my past. I told my story of the past over and over and over again, and it evolved and new things happened. I've been inside in documentary film interviews and talked to different people, and then now I don't have to really keep revisiting that. I feel a whole new sense of life, and I've built upon my let's talk about electronics. So there's a lot of electronics channel. In fact, I even feel like I'm going to make review videos where I sort of chart my course, learning about things, so that I add value, like saying, hey, look, I found this channel and I explored a lot of these projects from this guy who's like a bit of a mentor now, like John Audio Tech. Shout out to him if he ever sees this video. I doubt it. Though I can always ask people for comments on some of my, when I get more sort of specifically focused on building things. But maybe I'll tell a bit of a different parallel history of my life as it is reaching where I am now. Get this curtain here to block this bright light. Come on, Kurt. You can do it. So, I live in Bangkok. I came here from France in something like 5 years ago, and I got married more than 2 years ago, and that was like the initial period of about to leave France and leaving it, and then traveling around in Thailand and other countries like Myanmar, Vietnam, Malaysia a little bit, Laos, which is, I used to always, as a kid, I always see it as Laos. Nobody says that, it's Laos. It's the north part between China and Thailand, and had a kind of period of serious life change from what I did before, which you can always go back in time and find other videos by me about that. But now I'm settled, so to speak, at this home, and like I have photography, like you can see sort of one picture there in print on the walls downstairs, upstairs. I've done one run of prints. So that was one of my passions, was like it still is, analog photography. I have a whole bunch of analog old cameras, and another thing I always wanted to do was just be able to make electronic projects, and until I married and settled down here, it was just too hard to do, you know. Even in the past, when I was in my former life, even when I was on the road, somehow I managed, if I stayed somewhere for a month or two, to get photographic chemicals and have some tanks in my suitcase, and find a dark bathroom and change the film into the tank, and then pour the chemicals in and dry it out, hang it up, scan it, and put lots of photos on Facebook. But these days, I totally, like, during this sort of period of blackout on I don't know why I'm wearing these headphones. It sounds much better without them. This period of blackout on my YouTube channel has went alongside blacking out on Facebook and Twitter. But not that long ago I got back into Twitter, but after about a month on there I felt sort of a bit disgusted again and stopped using it. And the amount of time telling my story, or listening to other people, or reacting to their story, or then reacting to news, and then my life got invaded with, what do you just say, material that lends itself to outrage. And that's one form of marketing I've discovered. Even though the subjects are real, the outrage is real, the problem is real, but just having it presented to you from different angles, it's like people who have a business model, whether it's just their own vlog or blog, website, and whatever products they're selling on it that may or may not be related. They just want to get into your headspace, and so they pay for advertising, and it finds its way to you somehow, or invitations to you come, and news stories come, and people with similar interests come, and it just keeps on kind of, it's this echo chamber phenomenon. Whatever you're interested in, and people who have similar views to yourself, it gets reinforced as a positive way of Facebook being useful, and potentially chewing up more and more of your time. And the more time you spend on it, the more chance there is that you're kind of in a different mood, where you're vulnerable to suggestion. And even if that's just like, you're just shopping because you need something, and then suddenly they notice that you're shopping, because they do notice. They track your searches on Google, and Google information finds its way over into other companies, and what you're also shopping on Facebook has become popular. So whatever you're searching for mysteriously appears in Facebook as Google ads, or in Google, or in your email from Facebook, or just things appearing in your social media. So that's been exposed in a lot of documentaries. But anyway, a lot of people had this get off Facebook sort of advice they were giving, and I took it because I wanted to see him. I just felt I'm not happy. Even people I sort of got along with, you know, there was all these contentious news stories. Like, for example, there was like a whole period of conspiracy theory stuff going on, where anyone who dared have a theory that involved anything was, and you know, justifiably so, said, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, so stop it and you're wrong. But the narrative that is often more popular is itself just a piece of marketing a lot of the time. So that's why people get caught up in conspiracy theories. But obviously there are many ludicrous ones, and people are kind of led down a road of normal news into sort of side channels of less normal, less justifiable, less factual, alternative, more alternative, secret knowledge, clubs, cults, and so on. And so it's like a mark of the cult, like the cult of Trump. That was a real big obsession until they finally voted him out. And then he didn't want to go, and so on. And then watching people like stick to that big lie narrative has been very revealing for everyone, about the dangers of social media, how they work with these conspiracies, how effective they were for people like Trump and his media presence to use Twitter and Facebook targeted ads to find people who are vulnerable and get them into these weird groups, and use groups that probably aren't part of that, but they're for people who have certain choices. Like Trump followers, some of them were into this QAnon thing, and it had all kinds of theories about how Trump would suddenly get rid of all these corrupt people or whatever, and even though he was the one with all the corrupt people, not all, but his pervasive corruption right in everyone's face, where he's just like for sale to the highest bidder and just saying anything that can get him more money personally, even advertising friends' products and weird things, medicines. Somehow, even though that's unethical and a conflict of interest that would have got you in trouble, the more wrong things he did, the more he was able to get away with it. So that whole thing, and I have to be honest, it's still, I don't let it go, because I don't let things go because people just say let it go. I let it go when I'm done with it. Maybe I should be done with things, but if you're not really done with something, it's just going to come back and haunt you or occupy. That's why they have this term closure, and here's another example of one specific thing that I talked about, and it's kind of why I thought my vlogging should stop. When the coronavirus thing hit, we're all out there massively trolling social media, news, anything to get different, information about what's going on in other countries, how serious is this. And so, there was this blame game of who's responsible, which is kind of reasonable, because if you don't kind of try to patch the flow of whatever pathogens, that's what the whole shutdown was about. One country after another saying, well, that country can't come here, no country can come here, full lockdown. Okay, now you people can't even travel interstate. Okay, now people can't even go to the shop except to get groceries with a mask on. Progressively stepping it up. So there's this Fox News and Sky News, they're all Murdoch kind of media, and sometimes they would appear on friends' feeds, and so they would come in my face through Facebook, and I would say, well, that actually it's not easy to accept, and it's not 100% provable, but it's kind of laudable, reasonable to think, for example, that if there's a lab in Wuhan that researchers' coronavirus. Maybe someone working in that lab got infected, and that's how it got out. And because it was in certain news media and not other media, it wasn't everywhere. It was just instantly written down as racist, anti-China thing, because China can use those kind of things politically. You're being anti-China. It's not true. It's just like an attack on us. So there was a lot of contention and people spewing off about one view or another. Oh, why do you read that media? And I admit my lack of 100% knowing that certain newspapers were part of the Murdoch media, that other people on Facebook pointed out to me. But I've learned that all the media have opinion and news. The left, the middle, I don't know if there's really a middle these days. Middle is more right. The middle moved over to the right, and now you have the extreme right, where the racist kind of nationalistic, tribalistic thing is very strong, and you have also tribalism on the left a little bit, but more reasonable in my mind. Anyway, people didn't like that. But on CNN now, only a couple of days ago, this Robert Redfield, I think his name is, you get Fox News saying CNN dismisses Redfield theory coronavirus came from Wuhan. ... I don't want to open this link, but I will, just to see what it says. Which isn't true, because I just saw it initially on CNN and they were not dismissing at all. It says former Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield told CNN Friday that he believed coronavirus escaped from the lab in Wuhan, China, a theory largely dismissed by the media over the past year and which was swiftly declared evidence-free by CNN itself. Well, that's just natural. You have to have conclusive, overwhelming evidence, or you can get in big trouble on some level, either just, especially when you're trying to present yourself as different from Fox News, who don't seem to care about, in most of the, I don't know, at least on some of their content, which I don't like to watch, but it keeps getting shown to me by the, Washington Post or CNN as sort of they debate what's real and what's not real. And so Fox have a terrible reputation for that, at least with CNN. And from what I can tell, they are rubbish. Their opinion is just goes. It's so biased and it's so fact-free a lot of the time that it's a big part of the problem in America, and by extension the rest of the world, because America has a lot of influence on Europe, Australia, all the English-speaking countries, and not only that, in Asia you get a lot of the big stories getting translated over into the media here. So people, when I talk about what I saw on those Washington Post stories, people here often have read it already, translated into their language. But Redfield said science will eventually figure it out. So he himself is already pointing out the exact thing, that the evidence isn't clear. So then CNN's whole headline has Fox News' whole headline has no kind of point to it. They dismiss it because the guy who said it himself dismisses it as evidence and says it's only his opinion. So they presented his opinion, and with great respect. So there's nothing about this that's true. It's just clickbait, because CNN attacks Fox and Fox attacks CNN. So, but anyway, the main thing I'm trying to say is, I thought that made sense based on the evidence, like circumstantial evidence, not like conclusive. There's been an investigation and we all have the opinion that it's factual, whatever. It's like where the whole thing of opinion and fact these days is all mixed up, because it's like expert opinion after an investigation is never even accepted as fact, whereas random dickhead opinion that's on the media is accepted as fact on some stations, you know, if it's popular and then repeated by politicians or whatever. So that kind of thing bummed me out. That we couldn't have a debate over the facts and the, you know, like I said to my dad the other day. If you can't just go, Ground Zero has a lab where they research coronavirus. Virologists, not just from China but other countries, have worked there, and it's known. And you can't think maybe that's related, and people shout you down for daring to say it. That's really, really kind of sad. And then, you know, so now a year later, like someone who's considered one of the supreme experts in the whole communicable disease space says, yeah, well, I believe that it escaped from a lab in Wuhan, China. Yeah, I am saying told you so. Like, all I'm saying is I told you so is like, to the people who thought I was some kind of idiot. Am I an idiot? No, I'm actually a scientifically educated person. I have a degree in science. I've studied science as an interest. Just like I study electronics, and it forces me to use math and physics knowledge to comprehend what the little bits and pieces are doing, so that I can improve the circuit, or at least appreciate what I'm making and how it works.